Good morning. It's February 14th, Valentine's Day. This day gives the whole aura of flowers and candy and chocolate, especially the chocolate in those big heart boxes, those samplers that have the chocolate with the creamy centers. I am a sucker for that. And of course, for Valentine cards, when we send a note to the people we care about. And kids do it on those little Valentine cards, and they share them at school. It's kind of cool. And it's something that through the years has been a tradition with us, a special day to show the love to the people you care about. But when I realized that I was going to be doing a reflection for Valentine's Day, or on Valentine's Day, I came to wonder, who is this Saint Valentine? It became curious to me because it's kind of lost in history unless you really looked to find out. Well, I found out that there were three men that really could fit the bill, all in similar situations. All were martyrs for the faith. But the one person who seemed to stand out to be the example for Valentine's Day was a man named Valentine, of course, who lived in the third century, and that would be in the 200s. And he was a physician, but he was also a Catholic priest at the early parts of Catholicism. Rome was still run by the emperors. It was still a time when there was a lot of difficulties for sure. And it was during the time of Claudius II of Rome. And Claudius was kind of weird in a way. Many of them were, I suppose. But he outlawed marriages. And the reason is because he felt that marriage was an obstacle to recruiting new soldiers. I mean, after all, if you were married, you didn't want to go to war, did you? I understand that. But he also outlawed marriages for existing soldiers because it would distract them from their work. So marriages were a no. But as life will do, and as love will do, love wins out, doesn't it? It seems stronger than what the emperor wanted, and young people, wanted to get married. So they came to Valentine to secretly perform their marriages. And Valentine took the risk to encourage love to the people who came to him. And it was risky, for sure, because the emperor found out and they jailed Valentine. But you see, he must have had some charisma and he must have been quite an interesting guy because you see, he became friends with his jailer, a man named Asterius. And over time, that friendship grew while he was in jail. I don't know how long he was in because history doesn't really explain that. But during that time, Valentine found out that Asterius had a daughter who was blind, a daughter named Julia. And Asterius wanted to help her, to educate her, because if you're blind, that time you really didn't have a whole lot of opportunity for education. And Asterius loved her. So, in their friendship, Valentine became Julia's tutor, if you will. And during that time as well, even the emperor grew to like Valentine. He probably was a heck of a likable guy. And because he liked him, he offered Valentine his freedom if he would renounce Jesus Christ, if he would renounce his faith. But this was not something that Valentine would do. So his fate was sealed. Even though the emperor liked him, he couldn't let this man go unpunished. He was killed. He was beheaded. But before that happened, he wrote a note to Julia on February 14th, 270, the day he was beheaded, the day he became a martyr, and he signed it "From your Valentine." There you go, the first Valentine's card. It's a beautiful thing for sure, but there is always a risk for love, isn't there? Even in the Gospels, we see that when Jesus was sharing and encountering love, he did it at a risk. And that was all through the Gospels. I mean, let's look at some examples. At the wedding feast at Cana, when he wasn't ready to start his ministry, his mother came to him to help the married couple because they had run out of wine. Jesus took the risk and helped them with the miracle of the water into wine because he loved his mother. And when he went to his hometown in Nazareth to begin his ministry, a place where he thought he could be safe because of the people there loved him and knew him, he was rejected for his message of love. And he was almost killed. They wanted to throw him off the cliff. There is always a risk for love. And in today's gospel as well, Jesus shows a very human emotion because of the love that he has for us. Now, just remember, I'm going to read this gospel passage to you. It's relatively short. This passage happened right after he performed the miracle of the multiplication of loaves and fish, when he fed 4,000 people, according to Mark in Mark's gospel. Let me read it to you. The Pharisees came forward and began to argue with Jesus, seeking from him a sign from heaven to test him, always testing him. He sighed from the depth of his spirit. I love that phrase. And he said, "Why does this generation seek a sign? Amen, I say to you, no sign will be given to this generation." Then he left them, got into a boat, and went off to the other shore. Really short, isn't it? But the message is that Jesus showed a very human emotion. He had just given these people, these 4,000 plus people, a miracle. And these Pharisees come to him asking for a sign. And I can't imagine the exasperation. For giving love, he must have felt frustrated. And it was one of those facepalm moments. He said, "Oh, why?" He sighed from the depth of his spirit. That really showed his humanity. But let's look at the final act of his love. During his passion, what culminated on Good Friday, when he gave his life for us because he loved us. There is always a risk for love, isn't there? I know we see it in our own lives. We see it every day. All of us have experienced that risk when we love. And for some of us, for many of us, and often for all of us at one time or another, we sometimes try to avoid that risk in love, don't we? To avoid pain, to avoid the loss of a loved one. You don't want to lose someone, so you try not to get involved with them. You don't get emotionally wrapped up in them. You don't take the risk. To avoid disappointment, to avoid ridicule, to avoid danger. How often do we avoid expressing love because we're afraid that it will hurt us? There is a risk. But you see, it's worth it. And there was a quote by Mahatma Gandhi that I thought was just beautiful, and it really encapsulates this message. And Gandhi said, "Where there is love, there is life." But it's true. Without love, our life is empty. Without the risk, we don't have a full life. Taking a risk to love another gives us so much more than we can imagine. It's worth it. Brothers and sisters, remember that today when you're taking a chance, fearing to take a chance about sharing your love, giving yourself to another. Think about that. And besides, there's always that chocolate assortment in the big heart box with all those chocolates with the creamy centers. There's that too. Have a great day and happy Valentine's Day.